Happy New Year. I hope you're doing something fun, or you're just chilling at home on your own and you're totally fine with that, because I've had a few New Year's Eves like that and they were excellent. It's New Year's Eve. Truly, the fact that we've always got to have somewhere to go, oh, I hated it. I hated it. Now I don't. Sorry, I'm a mum. It's just the best excuse you can get out of anything. When you are a solo mum, people are like, oh God, it must be so hard. It's like, yeah, but if I don't want to go somewhere, I have an answer for that. Can't find anyone to look after my kid. You can't say that if you got a partner, can you? Because they're like, why doesn't your husband do it? That's a great point. But me? Sorry. And then they're like, oh God, I'm so sorry I asked. I'm so sorry I asked. I forgot you don't have any assistance. I'm like, yeah, don't forget how hard this is for me. It's such a good excuse. It's such a good excuse. So today I thought I would just do a little bit of a reflection, I guess, on some of the things that I will not miss from the last couple of years. A lot of people talk about how you shouldn't waste the time away and, oh, you've got to enjoy every moment. And, you don't want this to ever be something that you look back on and you think, I wasn't present in that time. And I'm like, okay, I get all of that. But the idea that you can't admit that some of the bits, particularly in the early year or so, are utter shit. And I just wouldn't want to go back to them for love nor money. I am really amazed, and maybe in the future I'll do an episode around my thoughts around having more than one child. But during this year, I have thought multiple times, I don't know how people do this more than once. And I certainly don't know how they do it more than twice. I can understand if you had a partner, it would be a very different conversation. But to the solo women who have more than one on their own and they do not have help, oh, wow. Like, I consider myself a pretty capable person and I just feel like I would be incapable of it. So I think that is amazing. But I've written myself a list that I've been chipping away at, and I think there'll be more that'll come into my mind. So I might do this as a bit of an ongoing theme every now and then, just to give some sense of assurance to anyone who is in these stages that it does end. Or for anybody who is kind of thinking about this path before they get into it, and you want to feel some solidarity when you're in that moment and understand that it's not just you, because you've heard me whinge about it and it was me too. So let me take you through some of the things in no particular order. This is just really a random list of stuff that I have been collating over the last few weeks as I've been thinking about doing this episode. The first one, the backwards facing car seat. Let me tell you about the car seat in general. When I was buying all of the things that I needed, in inverted commas, for my baby, and I might actually do an episode on what I actually needed, because I had so much crap that I never, ever used. If you have a single pair of shoes for your child before they can walk, throw them out. Who is putting shoes on a child that cannot walk? So I had a lot of people tell me, you must get the bassinet seat for the car seat. I think that's what it's called. The capsule. That's what it's called. You forget everything. Because they said you do not want to wake a sleeping child. When they fall asleep in the car, you just want to pick that capsule up and take it upstairs so they can continue to sleep. Do you know what nobody ever said to me? You might have a child that never sleeps in the car. You might have a child that hates the car. And that is what I got. She hated the car. She never slept a wink. She's never slept a wink. I tried. Actually, no, that's a lie. I did try to go away down the south coast, and the timing of the check-in meant that I had to nap her in the car, or at least try to. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get down to the south coast until 6 o'clock, and I wanted to get there as early as I could. I can't tell you how punishing that 2.5-hour car ride was. There was 30 minutes of sleep in there, but the rest of the time was hell on earth. So that won't be happening again. And I just realized my kid just doesn't like to sleep in the car. Even when I would book in for things like swim lessons. Now I'm on a car seat sleep rant. But I remember booking in for swim lessons and I was trying to shift my time because it did not match up with the nap time of my child. And they were like, well, most parents just nap them in the car on the way there. And I'm like, well, I can't do that, asshole. That's lovely for those parents, but it ain't an option for me. So if you can't find me another time, I won't be coming to swim lessons. But she just, hated the car. The capsule was an absolute waste of money because I never had to take that thing out of her with her in it, because most of the time I was pulling over by the side of the road and shoving her on my boob to try and stop the meltdown. But the backward facing car seat, she just hated. She only started to come good in the car seat when she could turn around and see me. So, all those early years, I mean, there's a lot about that early time when they're just not robust, which is another thing on my list, which I just do not miss. But, once they're kind of like, okay, the neck strength and all the rest of it is enough to turn them around. And I kept her rear facing all the way until it was right at the safest level and I could turn her around. But my God, every single day in the months leading up to that time, I was going in there with my ruler, going like, how many more millimeters have I got until she hits the line and we can get the hell into baby bunting and get somebody to change this thing around, because I'm over it. Anyway, never again. Now she's round the right way. She can see me in the mirror. She can watch me. It's just an absolute game changer. And now car rides are fantastic. Also, the way that I got home from that trip down the South Coast was an iPad with Miss Rachel on it. I don't watch a whole heap of telly with her. And again, I'll do another episode on screen time, because I actually think it's easier not to do screen time when you're on your own. I know people are very passionate one way or the other about it. I could give two shoots if you put your kid on a screen, or whatever. It's your kid. You do what you want. But I have used it when I've needed to use it, but I've actually been surprised at how little I felt we've needed to watch TV. But in the car, I had a 2.5 hour ride down to the South Coast that was hell on earth. And I had a 2.5 hour ride back home that was absolute bliss. So just can't recommend that enough. Right, next on the list, trying to get her to sleep in her pram. Again, something that people are like, oh, just pop her in the pram. I just went for a walk. I see mums out there all the time going for 5 hour walks with their kid in the pram while she sleeps, even while she just sits and enjoys the scenery. My kid doesn't do that. When she gets in a pram with me, she'll do it with the nannies, but with me, she just like cuddle, 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 cuddle. The only way I can keep her in a pram is with 700,000 snacks. And even then, she hoovers so quick. She is my child, 100%. She loves her food and she will eat everything you put in front of her. But then once the snacks are gone, ain't no shops around where I'm walking. So the idea of me going for I just am too fearful to even get in the pram, because I'm like, I cannot get 20 minutes away from home and then need to carry this 12-kilo child all the way home. That actually can't happen. But the pram sleeps, oh my goodness, the screaming and the crying. I had a couple of nannies helping me in the early days, and thank God one of them was just fine with the crying. She's like, she'll eventually go to sleep. And she was like, I remember thinking she was a magician, because she would go out and send me a photo 10 minutes later of my sleeping child in the pram. Now, the reason she was a magician is because she understood that she's crying because she wants to go to sleep and she's tired, and she'll eventually get there. Not because she needs you, not because she's got a wet and pooey nappy, not because she wants to get out of the pram, because she's just like, I'm knackered. And sure enough, she'd push through it. And she really trained Olivia to be able to sleep. And then I got a little window of the benefit of that. But for the most part, it was just me walking around the streets feeling like a monster. People would be like, if they look at you weird, like, what, are you going to get that crying baby out of that pram? And sure enough, I caved every time and put her in the carrier. So I just ended up walking around with this child hanging off my chest at all times. But that was just to punish, because again, you see all the women that are walking with their coffees and their babies in the pram, and they're having their lovely mothers group and they're chatting with each other. Oh, isn't this great? Let's talk about our lives while our kids are asleep. Says who? Didn't happen for me. The lack of robustness is next on my list. There is a period of time that feels like forever where you are worried about every goddamn thing. Everyone has to wash their hands when they come in your house and touch your baby. And if they don't, you have an internal mental breakdown, because you think that they're going to give your child some kind of disease that's going to leave you in the hospital because they're so tiny and you can't give them any medicine at that time and you can't do anything about it. I remember a friend of mine came over didn't wash her hands, and then stuck her finger in my kid's. And do you think I'm the type of person who would say, please don't do that? Nope. No, not in that environment, because you feel, I mean, this was in the period, which I'll talk about in an upcoming episode, where I wasn't quite myself. But also you're like, is that reasonable? I've never done this before. Can I ask that of somebody? Will they think I'm a bit like, this person's had children? Are they going to think I'm a bit over the top? You just do your head in, So you really just desperately want everybody who walks in your house to know that when you meet a baby, you have to wash your hands. But now, I mean, somebody could come in, take their shoe off, and stick their foot in her mouth, and I wouldn't care about it. So the fact that you get to that point where you're like, oh, you dropped that biscuit on the floor, whatever, eat it, because they're at daycare. They're probably licking each other's whatevers, they're probably eating the sand that's full of wee, everything's going on there. So at a certain point, you can actually relax about it. But in the early days, it's really annoying. And you're worried about everything. I remember I watched one video from, I think it's Tiny Hearts Education. Great account to follow. They do a lot of training and first aid and things, and they share a lot of information about things that can happen. But I remember seeing a video about a hair tourniquet, which is when your hair wraps around like a finger or a toe on your kid, and it can be really dangerous because it can cut off circulation. So, I mean, if that kid was in 50 miles of a piece of hair, you just felt like you had the magnifying glass out at all times, desperately. Because I lose hair like nobody's business. It is everywhere. I have to vacuum multiple times a day. So I'm thinking, my God, and this kid's, she's going to swallow one. What's going to happen? Now she just finds them and gets a bit of hair and gives it to me. I'm like, oh God, this is great. The other thing, the fact that she can talk now. I remember one of the greatest days of parenting was when she was, I mean, it was a bad day and a great day. She was really sick. She was totally out of sorts. I can't even remember. She might have been teething. She might have been ill. I don't know, but something was really wrong. And she just was screaming and looked at me and said, go to bed. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm not guessing what you want me to do anymore. So once you stop having to guess everything that they're trying to tell you with their cries, that was just so magic. I was like, go to bed. We can go to bed. And off she went to sleep. She was just knackered and she was sick and she just wanted to go to bed. So that was another game changer as well. Oh, also having to fill up every water bottle with boiling water. You can't just put in water from the tap. And then also, not too long ago, we shifted into the mode of I'm able to leave a water bottle in bed with her. Previously, it was like, is she going to roll on it, hit her head? Is she going to spill it? Blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm like, and she'll drink a whole water bottle dry. And I'm like, fantastic. You're not calling out in the middle of the night for water. You can just have a water bottle in your bed, All of these growing up moments, I get we're not supposed to wish it away. But pardon me if I'm like, it is much better now that my kid can say something and I'm not terrified anytime she's within 5 paces of a piece of hair. Something's really changing you better. What else? Oh, not ever knowing what's going to happen when she goes to sleep. Now we're in a routine, and I was in a routine real early. I cannot recommend routine enough. I was doing the routine from 5 weeks. Now, there is no point, right? At that point, this kid's waking up 75,000 times a night. You got no actual routine. And to be honest, when I was doing sort of bath around the 6 o'clock time and then she'd go to bed and she's waking up an hour and a half later or something, it's not really bedtime. We'd read a book before she goes to bed. She can't see the book. She can't even hold her head up. She doesn't know what's going on. And you're thinking, what is the point in me reading this book to this kid? What's the point in me doing this ritual? I tell you, because by the time it becomes a ritual, they know that that is what happens. And that routine has saved me so many times at bedtime because it's like, right, we're reading a book now. No, now we sing our brush our teethies song and we move on to the brush our teethies. And if she wants to keep reading a book, she might grizzle about it for 1 second, but then she hears the brush our teethies song and she's like, brush our teethies, brush our teethies. So routine is really like, I'm all about it. But I remember just putting her down and you'd be like, is she going to sleep 10 minutes? Is she sleeping the night? That was daytime, that was nighttime, that was everything. I'm going to dedicate a full episode to sleep because it's been an obsession of mine. I think it's an obsession of everybody's. I think everybody compares, and I don't think you can compare your kid because every kid is different. And even if you do everything that you want to do, they might not have the temperament that means that they are a good sleeper, But God, that just fear of, even the fact that I'm recording something now. She went down to sleep an hour and a half ago, and I was like, I reckon I've got enough time to record an episode of the podcast. I wouldn't even bother before, back in that time. You'd be like, I'll set everything up, and then next thing you know, I'll be running in to get her. So that is an absolute game changer. Having to carry her everywhere. God, I don't miss that at all. That was exhausting. Everyone was like, don't wish her walking, you'll miss that she can, or as soon as she can walk, she can run and run away from it. Great. Get going. Run down the street. Go for your life. Like the fact that we can walk down to the car now, she can hold my hand. We just wander together. I can carry things in one hand instead of having to carry everything. I remember the days that she used to come back from daycare and I would carry her and the daycare bag and my bag with all my computer and everything in it from work. And I have a garage that's all the way down at the bottom of a hill and no elevator in my building. And by the time I got to the top of the stairs, I was ready to pack it in. So the fact that she can walk, that was an absolute game changer. She was late to do it. So in some ways I was like, great, I really feel like I've had enough of the crawling and now I'm really ready for you to walk. And I have not wished a day since she's been on her feet that she was back sitting in one spot anymore. Like, no, thank you. You're ready to walk on your own 2 feet and go forward into your life. Finally, the last thing on my list is breastfeeding. I mean, it was lovely, I get it, the connection between her and I. When I think back to those moments, I know a lot of that has to do with why we feel so connected now. I'm grateful that I was able to push through and do it for as long as I could. It was not easy, it was not, oh my God, this is such a nurturing, amazing experience that I'm just like, I feel like Mother Earth. I was like, no, I feel like a cow. And I never want to see another breast pump as long as I've lived. Those things are hell on earth. Just the memories of sitting in a meeting room at work with a breast pump on as I'm going through my emails, I got to the point where my team, I would just drop in Slack a little cow emoji and they knew, don't go into our meeting room because I'm in there milking myself for the next 20 minutes. And I was getting a dribble. I was trying so hard to just give her breast milk, especially once I went to work. And once she sort of started to eat solids, then you're kind of much more comfortable with formula. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with formula right from the beginning, but at least for me, I was so fine to give her formula, but I was trying really hard to make enough breast milk. And then once I got to work and I had to pump, and I was like, when she was on the boob, it was fine, but pumping, forget it. I'm like sitting there for 20 minutes and I come out and I've got a thimble full of milk and I'm like, well, that's fantastic. So at a certain point, I'm just like, well, I just physically can't make enough. But once she's eating, then you're like, well, I mean, she had a peanut butter sandwich yesterday. What do I, at a certain point, you're like, just whatever. She want to cheat, it doesn't matter. She can have whatever she wants. So I just remember that being a really punishing time. And I just am so glad it's over. I'm glad I got my body back. I'm glad I got my time back. Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to see a breast pump again. It was just a real pain in the butt. And the whole process of weaning too, I was really surprised that there wasn't more information out there on how to do that, because I'm like, we've been having babies since the dawn of time. Isn't there a list of things that you have to do for certain things? But turns out, no, there's no consistent information on anything. If you want consistent information anywhere or a certain way to do things, good luck finding that. So I just remember that whole process being really hard because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Do I replace my breast milk with a cup of milk? Like, how does this work? Anyway, I eventually worked it all out and maybe I'll do another episode on it later. But yeah, do not miss that at all. So those are some of the things that I'm just so happy to leave behind in 24, 23 and move on to greener pastures in 2025. I swear, since she's been over the 1.5 year threshold, that's been a game changer for me because she's a real little person now. And I'm sure the next year and beyond will present its own challenges. And every parent loves to tell you as soon as you're happy to have moved into a new phase, oh, well, this is why that phase isn't great, or this is why the next phase isn't great. It's like, anybody allowed to have any fun around here? Is that possible? No? Okay. Well, you can all piss off. So I am so excited about what the next year will bring because she's talking so much. She's great company. I really enjoy being around her. So that's really exciting. Anyway, have a great New Year's Eve. I hope you are enjoying your time with friends, family. If you are on your own and you love that, fantastic. I hope you're having a great time, because who can be bothered making New Year's Eve plans? Honest to God. If you are enjoying this episode, then please share it with a friend, leave a little rating and review. And if you have any questions, you can always head to the link in the description of the episode and submit your question there. I have had a heap of questions, which is awesome, and I will definitely get around to answering them all. But thank you so much if you have submitted one of those, and I will see you next week.